What's up, Buckeye fans? Welcome to the Bucknuts Happy Hour. I am Patrick Murphy from Bucknuts and 24/7 Sports. And we are less than 2 weeks, just over a week away. When some of you listen to this, it might be a week from the Ohio State opening game against Texas. 1-3, 1-2 if you're more of a coaches poll fan. Man, football season is here. Finally, we'll get week 0 this weekend. So pretty exciting stuff. Buckeyes almost done with fall camp as we're recording this. So we are really there, man. We are really there. I'm excited for the season to start. I'm excited for the opening game. And I'm excited for this week's podcast. We are going to be talking with Dave Biddle about the grades we would give each position group. My colleague, Dave Biddle, I guess I should say. Grades we would give each position group now that we are basically done with fall camp. We have watched some of it. We have talked to people. How do we grade the different Buckeye position groups? We're going to discuss that. And I'm also going to have a special guest on, Evan Westfall from Caamp, the band that will play at Ohio Stadium this fall. Their song Ohio is going to be the theme of the horseshoe, which I know has been a topic of conversation since it was announced as part of Ohio State's changes to Ohio Stadium to try and increase the atmosphere. We're going to get Evan on to talk about Caamp, the band, how this all came together. Exciting stuff there. We are drinking Bud Light again this week as we go through today's podcast. Just seems like a Bud Light week, last week as well. So if you are watching this on YouTube, if you are on any of the live streaming platforms, please make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Please hit that thumbs up button. Get the alerts as our videos come in. As you've seen throughout fall camp, we have gotten plenty of interviews. Also, all of our podcasts go that way. If you are listening on your podcast platform of choice, please leave us a 5-star review, comments, all that is very helpful. Anyway, let's get into the show this week. And we're back, and we're going to be joined now by one of the members of the band Caamp, Evan Westfall. Evan, thanks for joining me. How you doing? You guys are about to head out on tour, it looks like, right?
Yeah, going back out on Sunday morning.
Starts in Cincinnati. Do I have that right?
Exactly right. Yep.
Okay, cool. So let's start off with you guys. I was doing some research on you, and I was a little bit familiar with your guys' music. I hadn't heard all of your songs, but I wanted to see just kind of your generic background. I know a couple of you grew up in Columbus. I think you guys met at OU as a band. Just take us through, for people who don't know, Buckeye fans who maybe haven't followed your guys' career, sort of your background, which I'm sure a question you guys get often.
Yeah. Well, first of all, hello, Buckeye fans. I'm also
Yeah.
We're fellow Buckeye fans. It's yeah. Thanks for having me on, Patrick. Yeah. So Taylor, the singer, and I, we grew up together in Columbus, and we were buds before we started the band. So we grew up Buckeye fans and whatnot, and then you're exactly right. Met the rest of the guys down in OU. We had a quick stint down there before we dropped out. But yeah, we kind of formed the band as a duo at first. And then as the room started getting bigger, we started asking our buddies to join us. So the rest of the guys are OU guys that we play with now, Matt
Nice.
and Joe. Yeah.
And you are an Upper Arlington grad, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Taylor and I are both Arlington grads. Yeah.
I grew up in Upper Arlington, so go
Nice.
Golden Bears. Yeah,
Nice.
I went to UA. I was a little bit older than you guys, but yeah, I from one Upper Arlington to another. Congrats on the success.
Thank you.
Yeah. How did this career kind of take off? You mentioned dropping out of OU. I imagine that's a bit of a risk to do when you're trying to get into the music industry like this, but how did you go from, hey, let's start playing music, to let's make this a career?
Uh, I don't know. We both, Taylor and I, when we started, we were just super like-minded, and we were both driven, and we even made like a written pact that we were
Okay.
going to pursue this seriously, and make it happen. And so we kind of made a promise to each other that no matter what, we were going to find a way to make it happen. And um, yeah, we kind of just worked our asses off and said yes to every opportunity that came our way, and met some amazing folks along the way that have helped us get to where we are. And and yeah, and it was definitely terrifying to drop out of school. Our parents were freaked out.
I bet.
Um, I met my dad at Bob Evans halfway between Athens and Columbus to have lunch to tell him that I was going to be dropping out, and made him a promise: if nothing happens in 5 years, I'll go back to school. Luckily, yeah, didn't need to go back.
There you
Um,
go.
but yeah, it was kind of scary. But Tay and I trust in each other, and we were for some reason confident. I don't know where that came from, but yeah, we just kind of put our heads down and worked.
Yeah, you got to have belief in something like this for sure.
Yes, yes.
What got you into music? What was kind of the for you guys the initial draw to music, even maybe before you considered it as a career and forming the band?
Well, for me personally, my parents had a great record collection growing up,
Okay,
like the Ramones, the Clash, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Elvis Costello, Police, just to name a few. And so riding around in the van and growing up with my parents, listening to CDs and stuff, and um, always loved like melody. Always had the song stuck in my head and whistled them around. And I know Taylor was pretty similar. His parents listened to, I know, like AC/DC and like Aerosmith and some classic rock stuff as
right.
well. And Tay was singing those songs at an early age. But nothing, it wasn't too serious until we had started in our senior year of high school at UA. We decided to do a capstone project. And like I said, Tay and I were buddies before
Yeah,
we had a band or anything. So I knew he could sing. And so we got together and made a record. And that was kind of like our senior capstone project. And then we played a show or two. And we really fell in love with playing the shows. And so we started like trying to book bar gigs like our freshman year of college. And that was really fun. And we said, yeah, screw, economics or like math. Like let's just do this. So I remember being like senior year of high school, freshman year, we started to take it really seriously.
yeah. My senior project was on coaching high school soccer, so it was a little different. A little different. I did not turn it into a career, though. I do still do sports, so I guess
You're doing sports. There you
yeah,
go.
yeah. Um, for Buckeye fans who maybe haven't heard your guys' music, are going to walk into the Ohio Stadium for the first time next week and hear the song. How would you describe your music? How would you describe sort of how you came together on the sound you guys wanted to have?
That was a lot of Taylor. He was into that sort of music. It around like 2012, 2013. Started listening. Like he was heavily inspired by like Justin Vernon and Bon Iver, and like the Lumineers, Mumford and Sons, like those bands that were doing it back then. And he brought a couple of songs to me that were kind of in that world, folky, and I started picking up the banjo to try to like play along to them. Um, yeah. Sorry, what was the question again? Sorry, I
Just to the no,
started
you're good.
rambling.
Yeah, just how it all came together and how you would describe it. But you covered a lot of it there with the
Okay,
sort of
great.
folky sound. Um,
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. You mentioned being a Buckeye fan, but when Ohio State comes to you, and I guess how does that process all happen? How do you guys find out that they're interested for playing this song? Like, just take us through, at least from your perspective, how that all worked.
It's not a great story, honestly. I was sitting here, I get a text from our manager that Ohio State wants to use the song, and I mean that's about it.
Okay.
But we were extremely excited, obviously, and um, I mean, yeah, we grew up Buckeye fans. I remember the '02 national championship game being at my grandparents' house. My whole family were drinking beer, and I was drinking root beer to try to like pretend like I was drinking with my like to be in had like 6 or 7 root beer that night and was buzzing. Um, yeah, we're just huge Buckeye fans, and we watch on the road too. We represent, and we try to watch every game. And so yeah, it was a no-brainer. But yeah, the story of how we got it is not that great. But
Okay.
um, yeah, sorry,
No.
um, but of course we said yes and wanted to get involved. So it was a dream come true, really, to hear from them.
Yeah. You're talking about watching these games on the road. I imagine that becomes challenging at times to catch up. How are you able to pay attention? Especially I think you guys have tours sometimes that interfere and whatnot. How's that all work for you?
Yeah, well, we'll go to extreme measures sometimes to make sure we catch the games. Like there was one year we were playing Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game, and we had a show that night, and we were in Boston, and we had a projector behind us, and so we asked if there was any possibility they could project the game live behind us while we played the show. And so and it ended up working out. So we'd play a song, we kind of all turn around and check the screen, check the score. And I think the fans were kind of pissed off about it, honestly. Looking back on it, it wasn't probably the best move. And we ended up losing anyway. But yeah, we'll go to extreme measures like that to make sure we're catching at least, the big games.
Yeah.
We'll pull stunts like that.
The song Ohio, I've heard that it is more about OU than it is about the state. I think if you listen to the song, though, there's certainly elements of both. Just what went into that song, and what should people expect as they hear it at Ohio Stadium?
Yeah, that was one of the first songs that Taylor had written and showed me when we started the project. And so, to me, it's about all of Ohio, growing up in
Okay.
Columbus and in Athens. It references to me the references apply to both towns. But what was the second part of your question? How
Just
should
Yeah, just what should Buckeye fans expect out of it? What do you guys when you hear the song, when you guys play the song, what comes to mind, and what do you hope that Buckeye fans get out of it when it plays at the stadium?
it's I don't know. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. To me, it's a super nostalgic song, and it lets me every time we play it or I hear it, I look back on growing up in Ohio and all the good times and weird times we had there. Um, that's about it for me. I don't know. I don't know how the Buckeye faithful are going to respond to it, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll find out. I know you guys are obviously busy touring, but if you get a chance to come back to Ohio Stadium at some point, just to hear that song playing, what will that mean for you and your guys, and really your career in general as it continues to build?
I mean, I'm sure I'll get goosebumps, and if we get to be at the shoe this year and hear that, um, yeah, it's just a blending of like most of our favorite things all in one. So
Yeah,
just a couple of guys that growing up here. I can't think of anything better really. Yeah, I hope we can get to a game. We're gonna try,
yeah.
but we're gonna be pretty busy this fall. But yeah, hope we can make it work.
Understandable. And then I just have a couple like quick hitter questions for you.
All
You
right.
mentioned the national championship game in '02. Do you have another moment or two that kind of stands out to you just as a Buckeye football fan?
Yeah, actually, I was watching the sound like a nerd. I was watching the Big Ten Network yesterday, and they were
Nice.
recapping the national championship season with Tressel, and they showed that play, Craig Krenzel hitting Michael Jenkins on fourth
Mhm.
down against Purdue, um, to essentially win the game,
Yeah.
and like we needed to convert that to a first down, and Michael Jenkins ended up catching the ball in the end zone, and we ended up winning that game to stay undefeated. And I was talking to my wife. I was like, "This is you got to watch this. Like, put your phone down. This is like one of the biggest plays in Buckeye history." Um, and I think that's probably what got to be a top 3 moment, if
Okay.
not number 1 for me.
Yeah.
that catch and that play.
Yeah. I remember I was at a buddy's house who did not like football. And so I was watching that in his basement by myself. And like look around, there's no one to get excited with or anything. Yeah, no, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Other than your guys' music, do you have any band songs that really resonate with you?
Other than our music, of course, yeah, we're constantly inspired by peers and music from the past, and we're just huge fans. I mean, I could go on. Like what I said earlier about my parents' record collection, like
Yeah.
all those, uh, you know, yeah, even like punk bands are influential, and a lot of folk stuff. Like I said with Taylor, it was like Justin Verne is a huge influence for him. Singer-songwriters, Dylan, of course. It's all over the place. Yeah, we listen to a lot of stuff. Um, yeah, and a lot of friends in Columbus make amazing music and
Mhm.
um, inspire us a lot as well. There's a lot of great music in town, like local bands
Yeah.
doing it. That yeah, that deserve some love as well. So.
You mentioned you guys dropping out of school. If you hadn't done this, if you'd stayed in school, what do you think you'd be doing right now?
Probably serving tables. I don't know. I think being a teacher is something that has always. Um, I had a great general music teacher at Jones,
Yeah.
um, and and she's the one that kind of turned me on to. I knew about the Beatles, obviously, but I would ask her question. I would stay and ask her questions after class about, which Beatles album should I get first, and um, yeah, and she really helped me with guitar as well. She had a guitar unit as
Mhm.
one of her units, and so yeah, she kind of got the guitar my hands for the first time, really, and um, yeah. Sorry, once again I trailed off and I forget the
Oh,
question.
you're
I'm
good. No,
sorry.
all good. All good. No,
I'm
that's a good
rambling.
answer. All right. Well, that's all I've got for you, man. I appreciate your time. I hope for nothing but the best as you guys head out on tour. And I'm looking forward to hearing you guys throughout the season at Ohio Stadium. And hopefully this works out and, Buckeye fans fall in love with it.
We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go Bucks. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks, Evan. Good talking with you.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Thank you to Evan Westfall from the band Caamp. You will hear them at Ohio Stadium throughout the Buckeyes 2025 season as they become sort of an anthem of sorts for Ohio State football. We'll be back just a second with Dave Biddle of Bucknuts to talk more football. We're going to dive into positions and sort of the grades from fall camp. And now we bring in Bucknuts' own Dave Biddle to talk about Ohio State's fall camp, which essentially concludes here in the next. Well, I guess we're recording this on Thursday, so they've got one more practice again on Saturday, and then they're off into game week. Dave, how are we doing today?
Doing well, Patrick. How about yourself?
Good, good, good. We're going to grade the position groups on the Buckeye roster. We have been at practice, though it's been a while since we've been out there. We've talked to every position group throughout fall camp. So I figured let's give the people some insight into what we think about this team going in by going position by position. So we both kind of prepped ahead of time on this. Let's just get into it. We will start at quarterback. Obviously, we now know Julian Sayin is QB1 for the Buckeyes. Dave, I will let you go first. How do you feel about not just Sayin, but the quarterback room in general?
Yeah, I'm going into the season with it being a B. I think it'd be a little optimistic to throw an A on there, as much as I'm tempted to do that because of Sayin's talent. And I think Lincoln's going to be a heck of a good backup if needed. And, if 2014 happens and they're down to their third string quarterback, I know it'd be a true freshman, but Tavian's got a lot of skills. I'm not going to go C by any means. So it's a solid B in my book. But you buried the lead, though. What are you drinking?
Oh, I already told them. I am drinking simple Bud Light today. What do you have there?
Oh, sure.
Oh,
Little
Oh,
Land Grant IPA.
Yes, I am
Oh,
familiar.
sir.
That is a good one. That is a good one. Yes, I have had that. Actually, I was going to say last week, 2 weekends ago, I think we were out at Land Grant, and I had a few of those, I will say.
Gotta be careful. These are
Yeah.
high potent.
Look, you got to get your beer drinking in on Saturdays before the season starts because you just don't know how much time there's going to be on Saturdays. So, kind of get it out of your system because, once the season starts, we never drink anymore, right?
I don't. I can't speak for you, but I certainly do not.
Yes, I also went with a B. I think I have optimism that if we were to do this mid-season, end of season, my grade would be higher. I'm very high on Julian Sayin, but I also don't know what I don't know yet. And we obviously have not seen him in any sort of meaningful snaps. We saw him in 4 games late last year. It was reminded, I was talking to some of the other guys on the beat the other day, like some of his throws last year, I think he was 5 of 12 or something along those lines. I think there were like 4 drops in all of those late in games when he's in with some backup receivers, walk-on receivers, all that. And no insult to them, but he'll be throwing to a bit better pass catchers this time around when he steps on the field. So that you mentioned the backups. I think Lincoln could do a very good job if he needs to step in. And Tavian as a freshman, I think is probably a pretty good insurance. So I'm right there with you. I did a B for the quarterbacks. For running backs, I sort of went back and forth on this one. I went with B+. And again, it's more just that I don't have a lot of evidence here on how this is going to look. Again, I think James Peoples is very talented and will be really good. I think CJ Donaldson is a great addition to this room. I believe in Carlos Lachlan. I think you could see some Bo Jackson too. But I just, with so much newness in that room, I was not able to just give him an A-, whatever it may be. So I settled on a B+. How about you at running back?
Yeah, I have the same thing. We're being pretty boring so far, but I didn't want to just change it just for the sake of changing it. Like B+ was my grade, and we all can agree last year was an A+. And so I'm not saying that they're going to be on the level of last year, but I'm bullish about this group. And yeah, it's like we were saying about quarterbacks, and I feel the same way about quarterbacks too. If we were doing this mid-season or end of season, it might be an A. Because I really like what I'm seeing out of James Peoples, the way he looks, what we've seen out of him early in camp when practices were open to the media, what his teammates and coaches say about him. I just like everything about him. And I think he's going to be really good. CJ Donaldson brings that veteran presence, that bigger back and an otherwise very green room. Even James Peoples played as a true freshman, would have been ready to play a bigger role, but the 2 studs, Trey and Q, stayed healthy. So, but CJ Donaldson gives them that veteran presence in there. And then, as you mentioned, Bo Jackson, I think, is going to play a decent amount. He'll be that number 3 tailback, just like James Peoples was last year. But man, if they go through 2 straight years with the top 2 running backs staying healthy, that'd be great for the Buckeyes. But chances are good that one of those guys will get banged up, hopefully minor. And I think Bo Jackson not only could hold the fort down, I think he could be really good right away. So I think they've got 3 really good backs. And I like some of the other guys they have. I think Sam Dixon's looked good when we've seen him. I think Turbo Rogers is going to be a problem here one day. I don't know if it'll be this year, but he looks good. Isaiah West has been banged up a little bit, but overall, I think this is a good and deep stable of running backs.
Good catch there to go Sam Dixon and not Sam Williams Dixon, as we've been told. He has changed his name on the official roster to Sam Dixon. I thought about asking him about that when we talked to him, but I guess I don't know I didn't want to ask and then have it be like, oh, I don't want to talk about, something personal. So I didn't, maybe that's a question for another day. I do agree with you. You mentioned with CJ Donaldson, the experience factor. I think that's huge. If this was a group of James Peoples being the most experienced guy and say Bo Jackson was the expected number 2, 1B type of player, I would be a bit more skeptical. And that's not because of talent. It's just because of the lack of experience. So I think CJ Donaldson is a big plus in that, plus everything else he brings. Dave, what about wide receiver? I think we might be similar on this one too.
A+. I did shameless plug. I did a depth chart, a projected depth chart for the site on Thursday. People can check that out. Did some analysis with each position. So I did the starters and the projected backups. And what I said, I'm not breaking news here. So Ohio State's number 1 receiver is the best player in college football, period, in many people's opinions, and Jeremiah Smith. Then they have the best number 2 receiver in college football, in my opinion, in Carnell Tate. Then they have the best number 3 receiver in college football in Brandon Ennis. and you can just keep going. If Mylan Graham is the number 4 receiver, which I think he is, I have to think he's the best number 4 wide receiver in college football. The Buckeyes were going into this season with Jeremiah Smith as a starter and Mylan Graham as the number 2. I'd be like, that's a pretty damn good number 2. He's the number 4. I think I would submit Bryson Rogers or Quincy Porter. One of those two is the best number 5, and whoever's not is the best number 6 in the country. So it's ridiculous what they've done at wide receiver. Nothing changes with that group. So A++++.
Agreed. Same for me. Spoiler alert. This is my only A+ that I put out. I was a tough grader for this. And I think you covered most of the reason why. It's the best wide receiver room in the country, arguably the best position room in the country, though. There is another group that we happened to talk to yesterday that maybe disagrees with that on this roster, but we'll get to them in a few minutes. You went through guy by guy, so I won't go back again. But like you said, if Carnell Tate is your second best receiver and your best receiver is entering his sophomore year, having done what Jeremiah Smith did a year ago, that's good enough for me to probably give an A+. But then you add Brandon Inniss and the depth that you talked about. I'm really excited about Brandon Inniss, and maybe we haven't talked about him enough just because he's a name that everyone's known and he's played a little bit. But I think this kid can be really special. Who knows how long he play. I don't know if he has a great year and decides to go pro after this year, or if he, plays 2 years. He's not going to catch a guy like Emeka in the record books or anything like that just because he's been patient. But I think that's to his credit. He recognizes, hey, this is the best place for me, and I know my time will come. And when it does, I think he hits the ground running starting next weekend against Texas. So, yes, A+ as well for the wide receivers. O-line. I went B here. And if you we still similar here?
Yep.
Yeah. I probably would have gone higher if you'd asked me this a couple weeks ago. I think the fact that Ohio State mid-fall camp started moving things around meant, and this is just speculation on my part, that, okay, there's something here that we're seeing that we don't like, or at least we don't like for week 1 against Texas with a pretty good test on the defensive line for the Longhorns. So I think they've got a good mix. I know your depth chart today, not to spoil it because people should go read it, but given what we've talked about, I think people know, Austin Saravelt, left tackle, Phillip Daniels, who seems to be on the rise at right tackle. So had they just kept with the same group, had that group proven itself throughout fall camp, I probably would have been a little bit higher, but I still think, especially given where we were a year ago talking about the offensive line going the season, B's probably pretty good, and I think there's room for growth.
Yeah, and now I'm tempted to go B+ to change things up. I will. I'll go B+ the more I think about it, because I would have gone at least A- if they would have done what I thought they were going to do, where it was, and I understand why they didn't now. But Ethan Onionwa at left tackle, basically what we thought leaving spring. If it was Onionwa at left tackle, and not just he was playing left tackle, they were saying things like, "Oh man, he could be a second-round pick if he went in the draft this past year." I don't know if he had a shaky summer and a shaky camp, but obviously he didn't set the world on fire during the summer and during camp. But if you told me Ethan Onionwa was they're raving about him at left tackle, and then you have the other 4 guys that are definitely going to be starters. So left guard, Luke Montgomery, center Carson Hinsman, right guard Tegra Shabola, and then right tackle, I thought, Austin Saravelt. So now he's at left tackle. It tells me there's at least a little bit of question mark at right tackle. I think Phillip Daniels has had a really good camp. I think the thing about him was he'd only played really 4 games, started 4 games at Minnesota, but he played well in those 4 games. It was at the end of the year. He was just a redshirt freshman. And he's playing big boy football. And I know Rice played some tough games like Texas, but they weren't playing a tough opponent every week. So right. It's my biggest surprise from camp is that Onionwa now has gone from, in my opinion, he was going to be a surefire starter to now it looks like he's the 6th man. And I still think he's going to be needed. If you're the 6th man on the O-line, you're going to be needed. Even if everybody stays healthy, which they won't, they're going to use the Bison package where they put that extra lineman in there. He can be the swing tackle. He can play left tackle, right tackle. They've been repping him at guard. But, I will say I like the depth a lot. Onionwa, if he's a backup, that's good for your depth for sure. I like Josh Padilla as the backup center. They've got some young guys that have really stepped up. Redshirt freshman Ian Moore at left tackle. Gabe Van Sickle, another redshirt freshman at guard. Jake Cook, a true freshman at guard. So they've had some young pups step up, and I like the depth. So I'll go B+.
Okay. Yeah, I also think it's worth pointing out, like Austin Saraveld, yes, he was at right tackle. They moved him to left tackle. He's probably been the talk of fall camp, especially of guys that aren't returning regular starters from last year. They know he can play guard. He did it last year. So if they need to move him inside, they can do that. He played right tackle most of spring and the start of fall camp. Now they're very confident with him at left guard from everything I've heard. I'm sure you've heard similarly, Dave. And he was even asked, like, how long would it take you to learn to play center? And he said, I don't know, a day. So, I mean, that versatility to be able to just move him around where needed, I think is pretty impressive and maybe a key factor if they do have to adjust similarly to what they did last year. Okay, Dave, I alluded to it earlier with the tight end position. They think they are the best and deepest room in the country. You wrote about the tight ends yesterday and nearly said as much. What did you grade them out as?
A+. And the thing is, you can't grade, like, as I joked earlier, the wide receivers would be above that if you could, right? I mean, it's just, you couldn't have a better wide receiver room, but I'm giving them an A+, the tight ends, because I've said this and I completely believe this. My time watching Ohio State football, covering Ohio State football, covers many years. I don't want to say exactly how many. And I remember some really good tight end rooms. I don't remember one as good as this. And I'm not saying they have a John Frank in there or a Ricky Dudley, although they might with Max Clare. But like, I'm telling you, man, like, I've never seen a room like this. I would have been bullish on this room, probably more like in the B range, but I would have been definitely, no pun intended with bullish, even if Max Clare didn't transfer in, because I think Will Kazmarik's going to be a force as a fifth-year senior, mostly as a blocker, but he can catch the ball a little bit. They really like him. Coach Bailey calls him the best blocking tight end in the country. Bennett Christian is the leader of that room. Even though Will's a fifth-year senior, but he's only been here for 2 years. Bennett's been here 4 years, has been through the ringer. They really like him. He's another guy that's just a ferocious blocker, great kid. Can also catch the ball a little bit. Had that one touchdown from Julian Sayin last year. Jelani Thurman is straight out of Central Casting for a tight end. He's now entering his third season. And then you have Nate Roberts, who is ready to roll as a true freshman. Then you bring in Max Clare. Man, I mean, to have those five guys in your tight end room, and they're not shy about running, 12 personnel, 13 personnel, even some 14 personnel with 2, 3, or 4 tight ends on the field. I will give them an A+, because I don't think I could sit here and say this is the best tight end room I have ever seen at Ohio State, and I think it's the best in the country, and then give them anything less than an A+.
So we differ a little bit here, and I went A-. I thought about B+, and I agree with everything you said. My concern, again, going back to what we said with quarterback and running back, is just like, I probably need to see it. Like, I need to know how Max Clare is going to be used when you have all these other weapons, right? And Keenan Bailey, when I asked about this, pushed back. I'm like, he's going to get one-on-one coverage for the first time in his career. And I agree, but if you are Julian Sayin going through your pecking order of receivers on every play, he's probably the third or fourth option most times. So what does that look like? How much has Will Kazmarik improved as a receiver? How much has Max Clare improved as a blocker? Like, these are just things I need to see, but I do think it's a really good group. Look, I was not a completely A student. I was a pretty good student. I was very happy with an A-, and with the potential to improve it. This is early on. We'll have midterm grades. We'll have final grades. So room to improve. All right, flipping over the defensive side of the ball. We broke up the defensive line into defensive ends and defensive tackles. For defensive ends, I went B+. And not that I don't, again, similarly, and I think this is going to be a theme throughout with so many new starters, but I just got to see it. Like, I've heard really good things about Kenyatta Jackson. I think Bo Atkinson can be really good. I think people are sleeping on what Caden Curry is going to do this year. Logan George, I know he's been banged up. We'll see how active he can be early in the season. CJ Hicks is very confident in what he can do, and I think he will certainly have a role. So, like, depth-wise, I don't doubt it. But, again, I just need to see what these guys are as pass rushers, how they hold up against the run. All of this just, it's weird to have two seniors who have been in the program for 4 years that have as few snaps as these two guys. And that's a credit to the guys that left last year, but it just means I need to see a little bit more out of this group before I'm ready to bump them up.
Yeah, we're going to be boring again. I also have a B+. And I think they do have the potential to be A-. If you're a Buckeye fan, you're hoping even better than that.
Yeah.
I consider just a regular B, but I think despite losing two studs with JT and Jack, I like the depth a lot here. And I like everything we're hearing out of Kenyatta Jackson. First of all, he looks good. He came off the field the other day not wearing a shirt. This is a guy when I interviewed him down at
You love
Media
that.
Day before when he was redshirting. He actually redshirted. Caden Curry actually played as a true freshman. I think Kenyatta got in some games, but technically redshirted in 2022. So we were down there in Atlanta. You were there too at Media Day. We had our draft that we did where we're going to interview certain guys. So Kenyatta was on my list, and now he was saying he was about 235 pounds. And he looked skinny because he still was 6'6" at the time with long arms, right? That hasn't changed. Now he's 265. He's put on 30 pounds, and it looks like just 30 pounds of just shredded muscle. So I'm very excited about him. I think you nailed it with Caden Curry. I like Bo Atkinson, might not be technically a starter. He's going to play starter minutes. I think Logan George, same deal. He's going to be productive. They really like him. And then CJ Hicks might not play as many snaps as those 4 guys, but he'll have a role for sure. So I like the depth a lot. I was tempted to go A-, but I'll go B+.
Yeah, I am. CJ Hicks to me is the most interesting because I think just as a pass rusher, I can see exactly the role he could play. But you don't just want to have a guy who you only bring in on like third down or second and long, those type of clear passing situations. You want him to be able to do more. Has he developed that side of his game? And that's, again, another thing we won't know until we see it. Dave, you lead off with your defensive tackle grade.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a C because I like the starters, and that's the most important thing. If you're sitting there saying, well, we love the depth, we don't know who's going to start, and they might be serviceable. I really like Caden McDonald. He was very good as a sophomore last year. I mean, he played a decent amount. He was one of the biggest reasons that they were the best goal line short yardage defense in the country. And yeah, you can say, well, Tyleik Williams was a big part of that. He was. All 4 guys that were drafted were definitely a big part of that. But having a backup like that come in there and wreck shop, that was huge. I think Edric Houston, assuming that knee injury is minor, which we believe it is, they say it is. We had heard right away it probably was. Hopefully he's ready to roll. He might not be 100% for Texas, but he should be close. I really like the starters and how they complement each other because you got the true 1 tech, you get the true 3 tech, even though he used to be more of a 5 tech, but now he's a 3 tech, and they complement each other very well. Depth is a concern, and I know I'm not breaking news there. That's why this drops it from what would be a solid B if they had good backups behind McDonald, and maybe they will. Maybe they will. So guys like Tywone Malone and Will Smith Jr. and Jason Moore and Eric Mensah, and even true freshman Jarquez Carter. Hopefully, and I'm somewhat optimistic that 2 of those guys can step up and be really solid backups out of those 5. But I need to see it first. I need to see it first. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the C.
Yeah, I went B-, so we're a little bit off there, but I think the thinking is similar. I would say I'm a little bit more optimistic on the depth having developed some during fall camp. I think I've said this a few times. I think the Edric Houston injury could be a bit of a blessing in disguise. Now, he's a guy who hasn't played a ton, and he was a defensive end to start last year. So he needs reps. He needs practice time. But I do think it not only got guys in on some first-team reps that they may not have had, but I think it also woke some guys up. We were talking to Tywone Malone earlier this camp, and he was saying, the first thing in his mind when Edric went down wasn't like, oh, shoot, we lost our starter. It's like, hey, next man up, time to go. I need to be ready type of thing. And so I like hearing that. Now, obviously, you have to go out and do it, right? It's easy this time of year to say positive things, especially guys that may not play a ton. And that depth is going to be important. But, yeah, I went B-, which, I think very similar thinking. I am hopeful that some of that depth did arise. Going to linebacker, I went A-, and probably could have gone higher thinking about it again. Again, I think, I want to see more from Arvell Reese before I go that high, but I'm a firm believer that he's going to be pretty good. I watched him yesterday after practice while we were doing interviews, again, shirtless. These guys, it's hot out there. He went over, I forget who the guy was, but he was chasing him around, and he just puts this, full-size football player in a headlock, and it looked like, the Undertaker wrestling anybody, where he's just so much bigger than those guys. And he's just a physical freak. We know what Sonny Styles is going to bring. Peyton Pierce, we've talked about him as that number 3 guy. James Laurinaitis has called him kind of a third starter. So I like that. I like some of the young guys too. Riley Pettijohn's a name that keeps coming up. So a good group there. And, with an A-, I don't think that's a bad grade, but there's still room for improvement as we see Sonny and Arvell as the tandem out there full time this season.
So I have the same grade. So I was debating, should I just go A or should I go B plus? No, I'll stick with my grade. I also have an A minus.
Stick with your guns.
I'm glad it's not across the board that I was worried there for a minute. We do have some differences, but yeah, A minus. I think there's definitely a better chance that if we did midseason or end of season grades, that this would be an A and not a B plus or a B, because I'm really, really confident in these guys. So you hear what James Laurinaitis, as you were saying, like just gushes about the top three. With Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese and Peyton Pierce. And I do think they're going to use more 3 linebacker sets than they did last year. So they will have those 3 guys on the field sometimes. Regardless, Pierce is going to play a ton, as you said. And yeah, I like Pettijohn. I like TJ Alford. Even though they're true freshmen, I think they're going to add solid depth back there. I mean, Pettijohn was a guy. Alford came in, looked already physically ready. And Pettijohn, not he didn't look physically ready, but he wasn't as like bulked up necessarily as Alford was coming in. And then he just must have just worked out all the time during the summer. I mean, Pettijohn went from like 215 to like 231. He's jacked. He looks great. Alford looks great. So the future is bright for those two, and they can add some depth this year. But yeah, I go A minus for James Laurinaitis' group.
I think the fact that we're so close on these, or the same on a lot of these, is a good thing. It's like consensus, right? If we were all over the board, people would be like, well, what do I, who do I believe? Like, what do I think? I think that means we've both seen a lot of the same things, so that's positive. Okay, you go first with cornerbacks.
Corners, I have them as a solid A. I think there's a possibility of A plus there, and it's crazy when you lose draft picks like Denzel Burke, and we're counting the nickel as a corner, right? Yeah,
I counted nickel as safety, but you can go either way.
Oh, okay.
And I'll talk about that.
All right, well, I'll go. This is your show. We'll go with that then. All right, so you're really only losing Denzel Burke, and like he had a very good career at Ohio State, very good, 4-year starter. I think we all can agree as a senior, he was up and down, up and down, up and down, ended up being a 5th-round pick. And Jermaine Matthews was playing just as much as Denzel was during the playoffs. Mm-hmm. He was rotating in there. So it was IGB, it was Denzel Burke, and it was Jermaine Matthews in the playoffs. That worked out pretty well. Well, 2 of those guys are back, and I really thought IGB would go pro. But he's one of those guys that would have been like a 3rd-round pick. He's going to help his draft stock, and now with NIL, he can make some money as he's doing it. I think Jermaine Matthews is a heck of a great candidate to be the best breakout player on the entire team. I'm talking about guys like, you can make a great argument for like Brandon Ennis, James Peoples, Kenyatta Jackson. You can make an argument for Arvell Reese. Jermaine Matthews, I think, is going to be in that discussion. And then, how many teams then? Those are good starters right there, really good. IGB and Jermaine at corner. How many teams are like, our backup corners, this 5-star and this 5-star, Devin Sanchez and Aaron Scott, and like they have other guys too. But Devin Sanchez is going to play a lot as a true freshman, a lot. And if something happens and somebody gets banged up or somebody has to move from corner to slot, I think he'll get the job done as a starter. He's not going to open the season as a starter, in my opinion, but Devin Sanchez looks the part and then some. He's one of those guys that came in with all the hype, and he might have exceeded it somehow. 6'2", 198, looks great. Aaron Scott, he's a baller. So I give the corners definitely an A.
Yeah, you wrote about Aaron Scott earlier this week, and then he was named a true freshman All-American by
Sanchez.
Yes,
Sanchez.
Sorry, Devin Sanchez. Yes,
yep.
By 24/7 Sports. So it's a guy. I always think it's interesting when you have a young guy like an Aaron Scott, and then you have a guy like Devin Sanchez comes in, and people are talking about Devin Sanchez. It's like, well, is Aaron Scott not doing enough, or is Devin Sanchez just that good? No, I think Devin Sanchez is just that good, and I think Aaron Scott's really good too. So as you said, I think you couldn't have much better of a backup group there. I went A- with them, so we're real close there. The one thing for me that probably held back is I need to see a game, and we'll see it against Texas, where Davison Igbinosun doesn't commit these penalties. And he was better the second half of last year, though they did creep up a little bit in the college football playoff, though not as detrimental. So I do think he started to make improvements after they really started to hone in on that. And I know that's been a big focus for him this offseason, but I need to see it in a game, and a game that, really matters, not just like against Grambling and he gets through penalty free. Go through the Texas game and don't commit a big one. Now, look, there's also a time and a place. Like, hey, I'm going to grab him, otherwise he's scoring a touchdown. Like, those I'm fine with. It's the ones that are like drive continuers and things like that drive everyone nuts, and where he needs to clean it up. And that's part of the reason he's back, because of that being an issue. Moving to safety, I went again A- with that. Caleb Downs, we don't need to spend a lot of time on him. Everyone knows he's the best defensive player, arguably, in college football, certainly the best safety in college football. So that brings the grade up a lot, regardless of who else is there. I'm interested to see what Jalen McClain and Malik Hartford look like. I do think both guys are going to play, even against Texas. I think you'll see a lot of both of them, given the situations and whatnot. And maybe at one point during the season, one of the guys ends up taking that job for himself. We've seen that in the past. But I think at least early on, you'll see both players. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think they're both really good, and they're excited about both of them. And then at that nickel position, I wouldn't say it's a concern of mine because I think the talent is there. But I wrote earlier this week about missing Jordan Hancock and just the amount that Jordan Hancock did, especially by the end of last season, where he was, lining up in all different spots and things like that. But as I pointed out in the article, Jordan Hancock wasn't that version of Jordan Hancock before he made his first start or even at the beginning of last season. So maybe Lorenzo Styles, Bryce West, whoever it is, maybe one of these guys evolves into that as they get more playing time. In the meantime, I think they will use the strengths of different guys in that spot. Caleb Downs, I think, also will play some there. And then you'll see Hartford and McClain on the field together. So I think it's a good group. And again, I think if it can settle the right way, it could be even better.
Yeah, I also have an A-. Caleb Downs being an A+++. I like Jalen McClain. I like Malik Hartford. I think McClain's going to be the starter. I projected him as a starter just various reasons, like just kind of reading between the lines of what the coaches say. They talk up Malik Hartford too. It's almost like they talk up McClain a little bit more. They talk up both of them. I want to be clear about that. And then McClain being an Iron Buckeye, that's the one. If I was a betting man, I would put a little money on Jalen McClain being the starter. But they're going to need Malik Hartford too. Or if Malik Hartford does win the job and I'm wrong, they're going to need Jalen McClain. So it's really good they have those two competing for that other spot. And I think Fahim Delane's going to add good depth there as a true freshman. And then, nickel, that would be my gives me a little bit of pause. But Lorenzo Jr., like he seemed to have a pretty good spring. They've talked him up now. Is that because he's a fifth-year senior? He's very well liked. I think it's more than that. I think they're in the business of winning big. They wouldn't just throw him out there if they thought, oh, he's a legacy. And no, I think is he going to be Jordan Hancock? I hope so. I don't know if he'll be that good, but I also like that they have other options there in case it doesn't work out or in case Lorenzo Jr. gets banged up. You can move Jermaine Matthews into the slot, which he's repped there, and put Devin Sanchez in the outside. You probably can't even put Devin Sanchez at the slot. You could put Miles Lockhart at the slot. You could put Bryce West definitely at the slot. He's 5'11", like 195. Like the kid is well put together and quick. So they do have options there, which helps mitigate the concern for me. But overall, I give the safeties an A-.
All right, special teams. What do you have?
I have B-. It was between C+ and B-. I decided to be nice. I'm going B-. It was like I was teetering. I went B-. Punter, we'll start with that. Most important play in football. At least McGuire has a year of experience under his belt. It's reasonable to assume if he is the guy, he'll be better than what he was last year. I would give him like a C last year. He was solid. He wasn't anything. He wasn't a game changer. He wasn't a field flipper unless he got like a lucky bounce or something. He doesn't have a big leg, but he's relatively consistent. McLarty is the guy. It's like if you're a Buckeye fan, it's like you're probably rooting like for McLarty because if he wins the job, that means the consistency is there. We know the big leg is there, and Ryan Day has said that is still a battle, so that'll be interesting. So the fact that McGuire should be better if he's the guy, and then if he's not the guy, McLarty then in theory would be better than McGuire was last year if McLarty beats out this year McGuire. So I think they should be better at the punter position than last year. I think kicking will be better because if Fielding pulls a Fielding from last year, they'll just put in Jackson Corville, the transfer from Ball State. I think Fielding's going to be the guy. They can even redshirt Corville if they want to because he never redshirted at Ball State. He would have 2 years left if he redshirts. If he doesn't, he'll just have 1 year left. And then I don't know what they're going to do. I'm curious to get your take on this. I just was throwing darts at the board when I did my projected depth chart. Like I was pretty confident in my projections for like all the position groups, but like with like kick returner, I'm so like this is who I prefer. It's not like we get to see this. Like it's like so I put Mylan Graham and Turbo Rogers back there, right? And then at punt returner, I have Brandon Ennis and Caleb Downs. And listen, I'm not saying I want Brandon Ennis and Caleb Downs back there returning like 50% of the punts like between them, like or 100% between them, I should say. What I'm saying is in big games and big moments, why not throw Caleb Downs back there? Why not have Brandon Ennis back there? So, but yeah, overall, I will give the special teams a B-.
You mean Caleb Downs, the first player to return a punt for a touchdown in like what feels
10
like
years. Yeah.
two decades. Yeah, no. I wouldn't mind seeing him back there. It'll be interesting to see what they do at the return spots because we didn't get to talk to the specialists. We were supposed to have them actually today, being Thursday, but things got moved around. We did tight ends on Wednesday, and no specialists came out with the tight ends. So not a lot of talk about that during fall camp, which is probably something we should ask about. But we will find out pretty quickly. Because of that, I went outside the box and just gave a Joey Bosa shrug emoji to special teams in terms of my grade. Like, I just don't know.
Incomplete.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it too. Because look, you just kind of went through it. Like kicker, we're pretty sure it's going to be who it's going to be. But is there the consistency, or are we going to see the ebbs and flows like last year? You talked about Joe McGuire. Good, not great with his leg strength. And there were some iffy punts last year. Nick McLarty, I still remember early in fall camp last season or before last season, I watched him kick a huge punt right in front of us. And I was like, oh, wow. And then he shanks one that probably would have been like a 20-yard net on the next punt. So it was like, you're right. The consistency is huge there. And then the return game, I think they will play their guys. They talk about doing that on special teams, guys that can make plays. I do like the idea of some of the young guys like Mylan Graham and Turbo Rogers getting back there just to give them a role because they probably won't have a big one otherwise. So I like the idea. I think special teams can be better, but I don't know. So that's how I left it. All right, Dave, let's wrap this up. Do you have your list there of all the grades? Can we run through them real quick on what you did?
I think I have them by memory.
All right, go ahead. Just go position by position.
So remind me. So quarterback, we went
B, I think.
Yeah, solid B for quarterback. And then I think I went, was it B+ for running back?
Yeah, that sounds right.
A+ for wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
A for tight end. Remind me, offensive line was B.
Yeah, I think that's what I did.
Yeah, offensive line was B, and then defensive end, I think I went A-. Defensive tackle, I went C.
Yeah.
I think my only C. Linebacker, I think I went. Did I go A-?
I think you went A. I went A-.
Okay, there. I should have. Yeah, I should. Yeah, and then corner, I went A-.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, I went A.
And
then safety, I went A-. And then special teams, I went B-.
Yeah. And I went quarterback B, running back B+, wide receiver A+, tight end A-, O-line B, defensive end B+, defensive tackle B-, linebacker A-, cornerback A-, safety A-, and then special teams, shrug, incomplete, whatever you want to give it. All right, Dave. Well, this is our last Saturday without Buckeye football, but we will have week 0. Are you a week 0 guy? Do you watch these games on Saturday?
I'll definitely watch. Yeah, like Farmageddon's going to be funny in Ireland with Kansas State and Iowa State. So yeah, man, I just like having like real football to watch will be fun. Like there's no like huge. I mean, that's the biggest game I think, right? Iowa State and Kansas State. So obviously not like a marquee slate of games, but yeah, man, real college football. I love it, man.
Yep, I'm excited as well. Okay, thanks for jumping on. I appreciate it. This was fun. I think we gave some people some good things to look forward to this season. And I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good, buddy. Appreciate it.
See ya. All right. Thanks again to Dave for hopping on here. Thanks to Evan from Caamp earlier for joining us. This was fun. I'm glad we did it. A little bit different with having Evan on and talking some musical stuff and some Buckeye football, how this all came together. But I don't know, just a little bit different. I want to do something a little different this week, and then we brought it back with Dave and these position grades. I am going to do a story on Caamp, and a lot of what will be in the story was in this, but keep an eye on that if you're looking for a little bit more about that band that you will hear all season at the Horseshoe. And yeah, we're going to be back before we know it. Next week is the first full game week, so we will have a happy hour that focuses in on Texas. And yeah, then we're off and running. Grambling, OU, bye week, Washington. You know the schedule by now. So thanks a bunch for tuning in. Again, if you're watching this on YouTube, please give a thumbs up, turn on that bell, subscribe to the channel so that you get all of our videos, including these podcasts, but also our interviews. And then if you're listening to this on your podcast platform of choice, please leave a 5-star review. Give us some comments on there. We appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Cheers.